Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Friday, March 23rd. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, the official podcast of thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. I am your host, Griffin Palmer, joined by CJ the Hitman Hickman and Jason Cabrera. What's up, guys?
Hey, man. How you doing?
Good. How you guys doing?
Doing good, man. Doing all right.
Good. Yeah. Jason, how you doing?
Griffin's fired up. Griffin is fired up. That's what happens when he travels.
No, Griffin is pushing through his delirious state. Full disclosure, I basically just walked off the plane, got into the studio, and started recording. So here I am. I'm a little delirious. I'm a little jet lagged. I'm kind of tired. I hope not unprepared, but ready to go.
It's a man, a monster.
No
right?
monsters.
Oh, the one time I don't have one.
We don't need none of that stuff. We're good. We're good.
I could just go make like a triple shot of the Soda Stream stuff.
Natural energy. That's what we're about to produce. Natural.
I should totally have done that.
Natural energy.
Natural energy? No, it's called I'm exhausted. But no, we're here. Let's do this. We have an amazing show for you guys today. Today we're going to be, of course, finishing our talk about the free agent fantasy impacts. We got through the quarterbacks and quarterbacks and running backs on Tuesday's show. Today we will be finishing talking about wide receivers and tight ends. We're also going to, of course, bring you all the top headlines from around the league. There were a couple big ones that happened since our last recording, so we'll get to that. And as always, you guys have any questions, we're happy to answer them here on the show. Just submit them however you like. Most easy way is probably on Twitter at the FF Fanatics. You can submit them on Facebook as well. Just follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Or you can even email them to us at thefantasyfootballfanatics@gmail.com. And again, if you want to support the show, go a step further than that. Head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Help us keep the lights on. Help us keep doing what we're doing. And we'll give you guys some nice perks along the way. It's a nice meeting of grounds. We answer a lot more questions over there. We cover a lot more of the in-depth topics. It's a lot of fun. With that, I guess let's get to it. Let's move on to our top headlines from around the league, and we will start with a league-wide headline. This is pretty big news. The New York Giants have traded away defensive end Jason Pierre-Paul and their 2018 fourth-round pick, that's this year, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In return, they will receive from Tampa Bay their third and fourth round picks from this year's draft. So, guys, basically, they swapped picks and they traded JPP for a third round pick. How do you feel about this?
I think it's a good move on both sides. The Giants, with the new organization now, they wanted to get younger and start working on that defense and see if they can improve that. And then on the Buccaneers side of the field, they definitely needed to bring some more help on that defensive line. Help out Gerald McCoy. They went out there and signed Bo Allen from the Philadelphia Eagles, and they ended up picking up Vinny Curry too. So I like this trio of guys right now to be able to add on to that defensive line and be able to get some pressure and help overall team. So I think it's a win on both sides for me.
I would say so. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you like to see the Giants making moves and trying to get younger and fix the issues that they had this last year. So it's a good move for them. Buccaneers obviously add a talent in JPP and a leader on that offensive line, defensive line, one of those. And so overall, I like it. Third round's pretty good value for an older player. So I like it all the way around. Good trade.
Yeah, see JPP out there with Vinny Curry, Gerald McCoy. It could be a nice little defensive front that they're building there. Now, it is interesting that you bring up their need for a defensive front because if you've been following all the news and connecting the dots, this was one of the top landing spots predicted for still available free agent defensive end, Ndamukong Suh. It was this, obviously not the oh my God, why can't I talk? The Buccaneers. This is the jet lag, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently, the Buccaneers were not able to either reach a number that he wanted to hear, or they just felt like he was not going to agree to work with them. They went another way. They plugged the hole, and options are seemingly kind of drying up for Ndamukong Suh. He had a couple of popular landing spots. I think the most common ones were the Bucks, the Raiders, the Saints, and the Rams. He apparently turned down his visit to visit with the Oakland Raiders, but he is, quote, intrigued with the idea of playing next to Aaron Donald and Michael Brockers in Los Angeles with the Rams. Now, the intrigued thing is kind of what got me here because that's basically a pro athlete's way of saying That's where I want to go, but show me the money. He's probably trying to leverage more out of them because, this guy's not played for anything less than a crazy contract his entire career.
Yeah.
So I think we can all safely assume he's probably going to end up in Los Angeles with the Rams as long as the numbers line up. And I would say that that's quite the upgrade going from Robert Quinn to Ndamukong Suh. Quite the opposite of what happened in Miami, obviously, as these players would potentially flip-flop. So what are your thoughts there? Just a little bit of speculation now.
I don't like it. Don't like it.
You don't like it because you play in the same division.
No, I don't want to see Ndamukong Suh twice a year on the other side of the line. That's going to be rough. But for looking at it purely from a Rams perspective, that would be absolutely phenomenal for them. You talk about having one of the best in the league on the front line. They've also upgraded at the corner positions so far. I mean, you're talking about having. And by the way, who's their defensive coordinator again? Yeah, this would be an absolutely monstrous defense.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's just adding just more ice into this cake that they're making out there, man. So this defense is the one that they needed to work on because the offense is straight. They got the young talent there. Sean McVay knows what he's doing. Now you got to start helping out Willie Phillips and giving him some more dogs, and that's what he basically did with this. If this happens, this would be definitely an addition to already what they've done with Marcus Peters and Keith Lee.
I mean, yeah, Wade Phillips and Ndamukong Suh, that's a very intriguing combo of talents there, coordinator and defensive lineman. And the Rams, I mean, they're clearly just being smart here. They can make plenty more moves. They actually have the sixth most cap space still remaining. They have about $35 million to play with. So I guess they're just trying not to pull the trigger here and overspend on a player who is, still, I would say, in the prime of his career, but definitely in the twilight years of his prime. So, yeah, let's move on, though. Let's go to the running back position, where unrestricted free agent running back Frank Gore has signed with the Miami Dolphins. Why do they refuse to let us have Kenyon Drake be a solo back? So, I would assume that Frank Gore is being brought in to be more of that red zone bruiser, kind of hammer it in type guy. I don't think they're going to be giving him the bulk of the carries, maybe change of pace first and second down back. I have to assume that Kenyon Drake is still going to be the starter. How do you guys interpret this signing?
Yeah, it's just bad stuff and confusing stuff in Miami, man. You bring him in. Yes, he's a vet. I guess you want him to help him work out with Kenyon Drake, but you know how these savvy vets do, man, and especially with this organization already not showing full belief and confidence in Kenyon Drake, he's going to be eating into his production, and that's going to be sad and dumb because he shouldn't. He's the younger talent. He's the more effective talent. I mean, you saw that hell of a game he had towards the end of the year against the Patriots. I mean, we can get that every week from him if they just give the boy the opportunity. So I don't like stuff like this where you don't give the guy the opportunity when he clearly earned it. But, I mean, I guess, I don't know fantasy-wise how much of an impact. I don't see people actually going draft Frank Gore.
No, I have to assume he would be a handcuff if you drafted Kenyon Drake. I don't know. And it's funny because we talk about how there would be like the hammer and the dynamic runner with Kenyon Drake. But if you look at it, they're listed on NFL.com. Frank Gore is 5'9", 212. Kenyon Drake is 6'1", 211. So they're basically the same weight. Kenyon Drake's just a little bit taller, so he's bigger. I mean, Frank Gore more compact, and that's what he does is that brutal north-south running. But yeah, I have to assume that he's the hammer. There's that red zone guy. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Frank Gore runs more violently than Kenyon Drake does.
Yes.
He goes through a line and absolutely destroys. So, yeah, you're right. If you're looking at these two guys, who's the hammer and who's the swing back, then you'd have to say that Gore's going to be the hammer. But that's the problem, is that it's become now very convoluted. We don't know for a fact that Gore is going to be the handcuff. It could be the other way around because you're talking about Frank Gore. You're talking about a guy that has been the number one guy everywhere he has been, and now he's in Miami. So, and we don't know if they believe in Kenyon Drake. The fact that they signed Gore at all shows they don't really believe in Kenyon Drake. So we don't know for sure who's going to be the lead back. So it's too muddled to even touch either one of these two guys until late rounds for me now.
I'm just saying Kenyon Drake averaged 4.8 yards per carry. He's, I think, still viable, but this definitely hurts his ceiling. I don't know how much affects his floor, but his ceiling definitely compromised. So, yep, let's move on. Unrestricted free agent running back Christine Michael has signed with the Indianapolis Colts. So, big news there, right, guys?
Man, I saw on Twitter somebody was like, "He lives."
He's that guy that just won't go away. He always seems to get a job somewhere as a backup.
It's confusing. Don't know why this is a thing, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's bounced around a good number of teams. Always seems to kind of wind up back with the Seahawks when it's all said and done. So let's see if he's a Seahawk again when the year's over this year. Let's move to the wide receiver position, where there's actually some more fantasy impactful news. Unrestricted free agent wide receiver Terrell Pryor, he has found a new home. He signed with the New York Jets. So, guys, how do you like this signing?
Well, I mean, I can see the Jets kind of covering the bases just in case. I mean, they're expecting the suspension of Robbie Anderson.
Yep.
They don't know how long that's going to be. So you bring him in. This is, again, Terrell Pryor betting on himself. Hopefully he gets a bounce-back year coming off a very disappointing year in Washington. So we're going to see. I mean, he has the talent. It's just about him focusing and, basically just trust himself. We were bewildered on just how bad everything was going on in Washington this past season with him. So hopefully that was a mirage, and we get to see, the Cleveland Brown, that 2 years ago season with Terrell Pryor, and we get that excellence maybe.
Perhaps. Jason?
Best quarterback on their team right now.
Oh,
well,
wow.
That's so disrespectful.
What about
Thank
Teddy?
You got Teddy,
Poor
Josh
banged up
McCown.
Teddy.
What's going on?
I forgot
Bryce
about
Petty,
Teddy.
Christian
Never mind.
Hackenberg? Come on.
I apologize.
All right, that's enough.
Way better than Christian Hackenberg. Anyway, so I like the signing, to be honest with you. It gives them a dynamic playmaker, somebody that can, maybe make a difference, even if he's takes him a little while to kind of get into the system. There's not really even a system there right now because we don't know who the starting quarterback's going to be. More than likely, it's going to be whoever they draft. So I like the signing. Like I said, it gives him an opportunity to bet on himself, as CJ said, because after last year, there's not too many other people going to bet on him yet.
Yeah, I mean, I have to assume that whoever they draft won't be the week one starter, but probably will take over that role at some point in the season. And I completely agree with CJ. He kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I expect this to be exactly that. Robbie Anderson, he's going to face a suspension at some point during the year, probably to start it, and who knows for how long. So I think this is them definitely covering their bases here. They're bringing in another one of these 1A wide receivers. They're really kind of filling their roster with these guys who aren't really true number ones, but they can be very productive when opposite a number one. Quincy Nunwall, we've seen that. Robbie Anderson, we've seen him actually be a number one for stretches of time. But Robbie Anderson, he's that speedy, stretch the field type guy, and that's what Terrell Pryor does. That was his role in Washington, at least. So I think they're going to just kind of plug him into that role, and then when Robbie Anderson eventually comes back, they'll have a nice plethora of these upper echelon wide receiver twos. So I like the signing. It's a good prove-it opportunity for Terrell Pryor, who really needs it after a bounce-back year, or an attempt to really do a prove-it year in Washington. This will hopefully be his bounce-back. And like you said, though, you have to take into account the downgrade in the offensive coordinators. Obviously, Jeremy Bates compared to Gruden, and obviously the quarterback, Kirk Cousins going to Josh McCown as of now. So that's a big downgrade. So I wouldn't say Terrell Pryor is necessarily draftable. Maybe a late-round flyer. Do you guys agree with that?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, well, let's move on. Also, with the Jets, by the way, I meant to mention this as well. Unrestricted free agent wide receiver Allen Hurns is also visiting with the Jets, and things seem to be going well. He's expected to sign there by most accounts that I'm hearing. Another one of those guys who is a speedy vertical threat. So maybe they're trying to open it up. Maybe the Jets are fooling everyone. Teddy Bridgewater is their future, and they're going to draft Saquon Barkley at number 3 if he falls there. And maybe they're just trying to stretch the field for the run game.
I don't think I want that.
No. I think it's all to help Isaiah Crowell, honestly, and keep the offense balanced. All right, now we'll move on. Unrestricted free agent Mike Wallace. I don't know how you guys did this. He signs a 1-year, $2.5 million contract with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's stepping into the Torrey Smith role just like he did in Baltimore, and you guys got him in a, hey, I want to get a ring, you guys just won one, let's go get another one type contract. You got him for basically nothing. So, CJ, what are your thoughts on getting your hands on Mike Wallace?
Well, if you guys follow me on Twitter, I basically said, I don't know how I feel about this, to be honest, but I'm going to trust the process. And that's basically the mindset I got to have. Well, you look at the numbers statistically, for Mike Wallace this past season, even with, a very on the decline physically, Joe Flacco this past season, he still finished better than Torrey Smith. He had fewer drops than Torrey Smith with more targets. I mean, everything was in Mike Wallace's favor over Torrey Smith. And I got to be honest, I mean, in his career, 3,000 yard receiving, that's very impressive, man. He got a lot of touchdowns. I forgot that he played with the Vikings for a season. I forgot about that. But overall, I mean, I like this. I gotta say, I'm looking over the numbers and everything. This signing is starting to grow on me, man. And if he plays that role, that deep threat role in this offense, I can see him being a lot more productive than Torrey Smith was in this system. So I'm actually looking forward to this.
Ugh, I hate everything. Yeah. So I mean, you guys have a really, really nice addition, nice speed threat. He's gonna jump right in, fill that Torrey Smith role, as we're saying. I mean, these guys are the same height, about the same weight. I mean, they're both speedy guys. I would say Mike Wallace, honestly, has a little bit better hands. And so now you'll have, Alshon Jeffrey and Mike Wallace on the outside, Nelson Aguilar in the slot. Freaking Zach Ertz at tight end.
Zach Ertz, and then my running backs. Man, Howie Roseman's the GOAT, man.
With an offseason to learn the offense. Yeah, of course, Carson Wentz coming back. Eagles are looking good. Eagles are looking good. I can't deny. I'm a little bit sour about it just because of the way my offseason's going, but yeah.
It's all right, man. You got Crabtree.
Yeah, we did. We got Crabtree.
There you go.
A lot of people are really sore about that, which we may or may not talk about a little bit later on. But it all had to do with this next guy, actually. So nice transition there, CJ. Unrestricted free agent wide receiver Ryan Grant signed with the Indianapolis Colts. So this was, I believe, a 1-year, $5 million deal. Fraction of what he originally was supposed to get in Baltimore. And I know everyone's saying, oh, how convenient that he happened to fail his physical right as Michael Crabtree became a free agent. Okay, I can see how that looks really shady, and I'm not going to pretend to say that I was there and I know what actually happened. But I will say it's a long-standing history that players often fail Baltimore's physicals. During trades and offseason acquisitions, these guys usually don't make it on their first attempt, and he failed his physical. Baltimore notoriously has a very tough physical.
Not a lot of Baltimore players, make it past training camp, so I can understand that.
That's part of the problem. They practice too hard. So, shut up, CJ. Come on, man, it's March. Why do you got to dash my hopes and dreams like that?
I'm just saying, I'm speaking truth.
It's true. We've been one of the most injured teams of the last however many years. So, Ryan Grant finds a new home, fractions on the dollar. Guys, he found a place that's a prove-it deal. He was overpaid in Baltimore. I think this is more in line with what he should have gotten paid based on his track history in Washington. Not the happiest possible outcome of endings, but still he gets an opportunity to prove it. And honestly, what I would say is a better situation because he's got no one to compete with there except for T.Y. Hilton for receptions at the wide receiver position. And if Andrew Luck comes back, a way better quarterback to throw him passes. So this could lead to a much bigger contract for him down the line. So it all works out. For fantasy, I'm not touching him. Maybe he's probably a streaming waiver wire type guy. Let's see. Last bit of wide receiver news. Buffalo Bills wide receiver Zay Jones. This is crazy. He was arrested Monday night in Los Angeles and charged with felony vandalism. So I'll start by saying we usually stay away from these misconduct stories as best we can. We didn't talk about Odell Beckham Jr.'s one that happened a couple weeks ago. But this one was pretty insane because this is a guy people are probably drafting because they're expecting him to be a nice upside. Not that they're not drafting Odell Beckham, but a nice sleeper type guy. Have you guys seen the video? I'll start by asking you that.
I have not seen the video. Me personally.
It's an eye-opening thing.
It's pretty intense. I'm not going to speculate what was going on. Essentially, what was happening, he was arguing with someone who believed he was his friend.
His brother.
It was his brother. That's right. I did hear that.
It was his brother.
That's right. His brother in a hallway saying about how he needed to go fight for Jesus and then
naked, by the way.
Yeah, he was completely naked. And he kicks through a window, next to a sliding glass door, it looked like, and it looked like a murder scene. There was blood everywhere.
He tried to crawl through the hole in the window 30 stories in the air.
Yes, he tried to go out through the opening. So, so again, it's not. I don't think we need to get much more graphic than that. There's no clear indication as of yet whether he was on something or if he has some sort of mental thing that snapped. I would probably lean towards the something going on. There's been speculations of synthetic marijuana, stuff like that. I've heard a lot of things to much more hardcore drugs. We will update as we know more about his future. I just hope he gets the help he needs, is all I can say. A young man in this league who has a probably pretty bright future if he gets his head on straight. So, yeah, Zay Jones, yeah, that happened. Let's move on. Tight end position. Unrestricted free agent tight end Eric Ebron. He signed.
Listen, no excitement from you. This doesn't change
there's so
anything.
much excitement.
He still sucks.
So much excitement. You know why there's excitement? Because he's going to what I would argue is a better quarterback. Not that Matthew Stafford isn't a great quarterback. And in an offense with a quarterback who loves to feature his tight ends and has supported multiple tight ends in the past, he signs a 2-year, $15 million contract with the Indianapolis Colts. And based on what I'm seeing and hearing, it looks like Eric Ebron's being brought in to be the pass-catching tight end, and Jack Doyle is going to fall more to the blocking rotational tight end. So,
he's already ruining stuff already. He's ruining things.
He's ruining Jack Doyle, that's for sure.
He's ruining Jack Doyle off the break. Jack Doyle didn't do nothing to nobody. Doyle was out there making plays.
He was, but I look, Eric Ebron, he's a late round flyer. You're not even if he was the only guy there, based on his track record, it's hard to invest much more than that in him. But in deeper leagues, 2 tight end leagues, he's someone that he's still out there. He signed a contract. It's a pretty decent contract for a tight end. Pretty good for what you would expect him to have gotten as a prove-it deal, and in an offense which will play well to him. So I don't know. Obviously, I'm excited about this. I'm looking at the upside while realizing this is a low floor, high ceiling type situation. What are your guys' thoughts?
Stupid.
Thank you. I know you think it's stupid, CJ, but what do you think the fantasy implications are here?
Can't you be unbiased for 1 minute?
No, he can't.
No, it's I was talking to you, Griffin.
Oh, me? Oh, no, all the time.
So
I said low floor, very low floor, but high ceiling. So
it could be great. It could be great because you're talking about Andrew Luck. You're talking about one of the best quarterbacks in the league when he's healthy. It could be a very nice piece for them to kind of fill in a spot that they're kind of missing right now. So could be great if Eric Ebron can learn how to actually separate and get open and catch the ball when he's supposed to and all those kinds of things. So give him some time to mesh with this offense. Could be a very nice move.
CJ, would you like to add more than that it was stupid?
Yeah.
Do I dare ask you that?
In certain situations, this could be really good in 2 tight end sets, and he can be effective in the offense.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, did that hurt?
Thank
that
you,
was
CJ.
A lot of positivity from you there, CJ.
Where there's a will, there's a way, CJ. I will say that on considerably less receptions, they had about the same yardage and the same amount of touchdowns. So it'll be an interesting compliment to see how this works out. Jack Doyle is considerably taller, but he's bigger. So I think he's going to be more of that run blocking, pass protection, roll out, dump off, screen tight end where they might use Eric Ebron more in formation. So we'll see. And last bit of tight end news. The Jacksonville Jaguars have released tight end Mercedes Lewis. Not really that surprised there. I don't know. Did you guys see this coming? Because I kind of did.
I thought he was going to at least take a vet deal and stay again, make another run with him. I didn't really see him being released, but I'm not surprised.
Well, they brought in Austin Seferian-Jenkins and Niles Paul, so they already had Michael Rivera there. I didn't see them paying to keep Mercedes Lewis. But I don't know. Jason, your thoughts?
No, I'm not surprised at all. Well, like you said, as soon as Austin Seferian-Jenkins got signed, I was like, well, he's done.
Yeah.
He's not going to be a Jag. So,
come to Philly.
I think he'll. Yeah, I was gonna say he's gonna land somewhere. He's got a lot of experience. He's a solid tight end, even if he's in a rotation. So he's gonna land on his feet.
Yep. All right, so that does it for the news. Now let's go to why everyone's here. Our topic of the day are free agent fantasy impacts part 2. So if you guys want to hear our thoughts on all of the top quarterbacks and running backs to this point of free agency, which most of the big ones have signed, go back and listen to Tuesday's show. It was a long one. Admittedly, CJ and I got a little long-winded, but we wanted to make sure you guys had all the facts. Today, we are covering the wide receivers and the tight ends, the notable ones, and we will start at the top of the list, the guy who got the most money this offseason, and that is Sammy Watkins. Obviously going from the Los Angeles Rams to the Kansas City Chiefs, his third team in, 12 months or something crazy. So, yeah, guys, thoughts on Sammy Watkins' impact in Kansas City?
To me, it's all going to be about health. Can we get another full year of him being healthy? And then now, not only about the health, but how productive can he be in this offense? You have Patrick Mahomes, big arm, and a lot of talent going on in this offense, a lot of speed, a lot of explosiveness, a lot of things that can make defenses nervous. So he's poised already off the break in this offense to dominate. But to me, it's just all going to be about if he can stay healthy. That's a big, major thing for me. And if all the stars are aligned, this is a guy I can see you actually picking up. For me, I would draft him like in the top of the third round, and be okay with that just because I'm projecting him to just have a monster year.
Jason?
Yeah, this is interesting. You can definitely see deliberate movement by Kansas City toward a more pass-heavy, deep pass-heavy offense with Patrick Mahomes and that giant arm that he's got. And you got Tyreek Hill over there, and you've got Travis Kelce. Now you got Sammy Watkins. So this offense has definitely improved. The question is going to be the quarterback position, of course, because we don't know how he's going to react. But I really like this move. I like Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill as the two receivers in this offense. This is going to be very scary to watch, and you've got two possible number ones on either side, so it's going to be really nice to watch.
Yeah, I kind of take a slightly different approach here. For
No,
fantasy,
do you?
A little bit, just a smidge. Look, Sammy Watkins, we all know that when he's healthy and when he's on, he can be one of the top talents out there. He's shown some amazing flashes. He's still young, very young. He's only, 25 right now? And yeah. I just have a hard time believing that he can, because, look, last year he was in Los Angeles with the Rams, the number one offense, and he still only had 593 yards and admittedly 8 touchdowns. They used him well in the red zone. 39 receptions. I mean, that's not huge, and that's with Matt LaFleur and Sean McVay out there coordinating, making an amazing offense. He now goes to Kansas City with Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, I think is how you say his name, if I remember correctly. But and he's going into a very congested situation. He's got a new quarterback who I honestly expect. I think the ceiling obviously is much higher than Alex Smith, but Alex Smith had a fantastic career year last year. I think everyone set new ceilings. Can Patrick Mahomes blow that away? Probably, but is he going to do that this year? I would say probably not. He's going to go through some learning curves, and he's going to go through probably more lows than highs, as most young quarterbacks do, especially as they're getting their first starting reps. We've seen this offense flows through Tyreek Hill, and if it doesn't go to Tyreek Hill, it goes to Travis Kelce, and if it doesn't go to one of those two guys, it goes to Kareem Hunt. So they add this new wrinkle in there, which is great, but there's only so many balls to go around. There's only so much volume. So as far as I can tell, Sammy Watkins, I think his ceiling is really around what he did last year with the Rams when he was the number one receiver there, at least in the progression. So I don't really know that I can get to behind him as much more than a wide receiver too, really. So I don't think I'd be looking for him in the third round, if I'm honest. So I don't know. Do you guys think there's any reality to that situation? Do you think that that's crazy?
I mean, I can see it.
So I understand the thought. I mean, it is new. So you got a new quarterback. He's new to the team. It's a new dynamic that they're forming. So I understand the thought, but I think because of the style that they're going to want to run, I think they're going to stretch the field a lot more than they used to. So I think you're going to see a lot more Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill than what we expect. But I completely understand you being very hesitant on going after him, especially in really early rounds, because, I mean, we don't know. We honestly haven't seen them play together yet.
I just see this, like, any other team where there's so many mouths to feed, and the quarterback's unproven or less than elite. Where so they're going to hit some weeks, but not all weeks. Probably less weeks than they're going to. So investing a high round pick into a guy who I know I probably can't count in and week out, that's concerning to me. So CJ, you said probably like the third, maybe fourth round, right?
Yeah.
Jason, where would you be looking for him?
I'll probably wait a little bit longer, probably fifth, sixth round.
Yeah, see, I'm kind of thinking sixth round is probably where I'd start looking his way, because then I'm looking. Once you get to those middle rounds, I'm starting to look for upsides more. And that then he'd be going as a flex option type wide or low end wide receiver too, which I could get my head around investing that value into him. Let me see where he's going right now. He's currently going as the last pick in the fifth round, so basically a sixth round pick. So yeah, that sounds about right. I'm okay with that. All right, let's move on. Next guy on the list. Allen Robinson, a guy who many, many, many teams were hoping they could get their hands on. Chicago was the team that became victorious there, obviously going from Jacksonville to Chicago. Guys, what are your thoughts on Allen Robinson in a new town with what you have to assume is at least an equivalent level quarterback?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, I like Mitchell Trubisky. I like the fact that Chicago said, you know what? We had a bunch of bargain bin receivers last year. We were trying to get our feet under us. Now we're going to focus on the receivers. They go out and they get themselves the best one on the market, Allen Robinson. He is a number one. He is going to have the opportunity to continue to be a number one. But the same argument we just made about Sammy Watkins applies here. Allen Robinson is in a new place. He's going to have to learn how to mesh with this new team, this new offense. Mitchell Trubisky is going on to his first year as the starter all year. So, yeah, you gotta take a step back and go, okay, I'm gonna stay calm a little bit. I'm gonna wait a little bit. Second round, probably no. Third round, probably not. I wouldn't start looking for Allen Robinson probably till the fourth, fifth round.
Yeah, I gotta second that. Allen Robinson, talent. You gotta go back a couple years with him in Jacksonville. Amazing with him and Blake Bortles. That was a phenomenal year. Injury concerns. Then you got once again a new system. So this is Trubisky's second year, and like Jason said, first year being a starter. They're bringing in I like the mind, a former offensive coordinator with Kansas City Chiefs, and Nagy there. I like that. I like the youth going on right there. I like the trend that's kind of happening with the same thing with the Rams is going. So you got a lot of positives there, but that's a totally different situation going on in the Rams versus what we got going on here. We can hope that it gets to that level with Jared Goff and McVay, but we just don't know. So I'm gonna have to agree with Jason. I would say probably about fourth, fifth round for me with Allen Robinson.
Yeah, it's tough because, like we've said, the talent is there. There's no denying that. Yes, he struggled in press coverage, but as a whole, he was a number one in a bad offense. And that one magical year, he was a true number one for fantasy. He finished top 6, top 5, whatever the upper half of your number ones are, depending on your league size. Now, here he is. Coming off of an injury, admittedly, which sucks, an ACL, but it was incredibly early in the season. He's going to be fully recovered. He's going to a guy, Mitchell Trubisky, who played in 12 games last year, but he only had a 77.5 quarterback rating through those games. That's not very confidence-inspiring. It was his rookie year, I will admit that. His weapons were lackluster, to say the least. They've done quite a bit to try and fix that problem. Obviously, they also brought in Taylor Gabriel, so they have Allen Robinson, Taylor Gabriel, a combination of Cameron Meredith and Kevin White. Both of them have upside. We've seen them, in spurts at the time. Yeah, they brought in Trey Burton. Trey Burton, a great tight end for catching. Him and Mitchell Trubisky, I expect to be best friends. Obviously, they have a nice 1-2 punch in Jordan Howard and Terry Cohen. This is kind of a sneaky up-and-coming offense. I think it just really comes down to, is Mitchell Trubisky going to get the same rapport with Allen Robinson? How long will it take to get them going? I'm higher on Allen Robinson than I am on, say, Sammy Watkins, because I know he is the true number one target in the progression here. He's going to get a lot more balls. He's going to get a lot more targets, and that volume is what I look for in a player. I want, even in standard leagues, obviously in PPR it's even better, but even in standard leagues, you want that floor of targets and receptions and yardage. So for me, depending on how the draft's falling for me, I might look for him probably late 4th round I'd be okay with. I'd like to take him later, but I'd be okay with like late 4th round. And let me see if I can find where he's going really fast. I should have all this prepared, but like I said, I just got off the plane. He is going as the there it is, 9th pick in the 4th round. So yeah, right about there. He's going between Jarvis Landry and Larry Fitzgerald right now. So yeah, Allen Robinson, 4th round pick. And I'm okay with that. I think he's going to get all the balls. So let's see. Next guy, let's talk about Jarvis Landry, who's going as the 7th pick in the 4th round, as we just discovered. Thank you. I didn't plan it at all. I'd love to take credit. Obviously went from the Miami Dolphins. Yeah, I know, right? Traded to the Cleveland Browns. So, guys, what are your thoughts on Jarvis Landry in Cleveland?
Well, to me, I think it's going to be tough because you want to say that possibly him and his role in the Browns now is kind of hopefully be more like what his role was going to go on in Miami, where he had a connection with Ryan Tannehill. Can he get that connection off the break with Tyrod and see if that continue to keep going? And, that would be good for him as far as, being effective in this offense. But you just don't know. This is one of those situations where it's new face in a new place, and right now it's real murky because you just don't know how effective and what is going to be his role in this offense, and how quick he can be able to get off the ground running. So I still like the guy. I do like the guy, but with him being in this situation right here, I'm definitely going to have to keep a close eye on it if you're a fan of Juice and where you want to draft him.
Jason?
I think this is going to be really, really good in 2019. I think that this offense, I think they got their piece that they wanted. They got Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor is going to be their quarterback. I like that. That's nice. Yeah, they're going to draft a quarterback more than likely, but I still like the fact that Tyrod Taylor is there. I think he's going to be their guy for this year and probably next year. And with Jarvis Landry added onto this offense, and you've got Josh Gordon out there on the outside, this is a really nice 1-2 punch that they've put together, and it's going to be great next year. Not necessarily this year. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for this team to meld. They just came off of another winless season. So as far as production-wise and looking for him as a viable fantasy weapon, I would definitely wait on taking him too high.
Yeah, I feel like most people, when a big-name player changes teams, they want to jump all over that because it's in the news. Everyone gets excited about it. The possibilities are endless, that whole narrative. But, yeah, I kind of agree with you guys. I am so off on Jarvis Landry. It's insane because this is a guy who has been, he's an inside slot receiver. He is a PPR monster. Translates sometimes to fantasy and standard leagues. Sometimes it doesn't. But, he's going to a place where he's going to be in part of a pretty big wide receiver committee. They've done a lot to bring in targets. Obviously, they have Josh Gordon and Corey Coleman on the outside, like we said, Jarvis Landry on the inside. They have David Njoku catching passes from the tight end position. Carlos Hyde they brought in catching balls, along with Duke Johnson who catches balls. It's a lot of volume to go around, and you're going to tell me that Tyrod Taylor is going to distribute that many passes? I mean, last year, how many targets do you think Jarvis Landry had? And we know he's a big target monster. How many targets do you think he got?
57.
120? Or how many? 57 targets total?
57 targets. He had 100 and however many catches.
He did have Jay Cutler as his quarterback.
At one point. Yeah, he had 112 receptions. So how many targets do you think he had?
What did I say, 120?
You said 120.
120.
So the 20, I'll say 112.
He had a perfect catch rate.
Perfect.
That's all. Wow, you haven't watched much tape.
I just want to keep this moving.
So you don't know. He had 161 targets.
Holy crap!
Tyrod Taylor only threw 420 throws the entire season last year. So you're going to tell me that a guy who over his career is averaging less than that is going to be able to find Jarvis Landry 160-plus times in order to get him a volume equivalent to that? There's no way. His floor has to drop, and I don't think he's got a very high ceiling with all those other weapons that he has in Cleveland. And that's crazy to say, but I think Cleveland has a better offense right now than Miami had, even with Adam Gase there and all the other weapons. So I see no way that the ceiling is as high for Jarvis Landry as it was or as he finished last year. So I just can't get behind it. And like, where's he going right now? We just said the 4th round, middle 4th. In a lot of ways, I feel like that might be a little too rich. This is a guy who has a chance to give you a lower floor. I mean, will Tyrod probably build a good rapport with him? Sure. Will he probably get a lot of targets? Yeah. But will it be what he got over the last 4 years in Miami, where he set an NFL record for targets and catches? There's no way. I don't see it. So I'm not as high on Jarvis Landry as I know other people are, and I expect many of your league mates to be. So, yeah, I'm not taking him until probably middle rounds. Let's move on. Jordy Nelson. This was a signing that made no sense. Obviously, he got cut by Green Bay. He wound up in Oakland, where he got basically equal money as Michael Crabtree. He's got a similar skill set as Michael Crabtree, but they cut Michael Crabtree, and they got a player multiple years older in Jordy Nelson. So what do you guys think about this signing? Obviously, on paper, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I think this has to be kind of one of those, like, oh, we're bringing in a veteran leadership guy, maybe a higher ceiling type play, but the floor has to be roughly the same, if not lower, because, I mean, again, Jordy Nelson, much older player, and coming off of what was a very bad year. Admittedly, the badness started after Aaron Rodgers went down. So what do you guys think about this move? Because it's one that has a lot of people scratching their heads.
This is me or you? This one.
Either or. CJ, you start.
You got it.
You start? Okay, me? All right. So, Jordy Nelson there. And look, I think it's a good vet for Carr to be their very savvy receiver, man. Look, Jordy's play didn't really start to go down until Aaron Rodgers got hurt. I mean, that rook with the Packers, man, he tried his best, tried his darndest to try to give him the ball, man. It just didn't work out. And then Adams was the guy that ended up getting all the targets and getting the touches, and his stock rose up. So I mean, I don't know what was their logic on cutting him, knowing that this was Rodgers' guy, and if Rodgers is back and Rodgers is healthy, he was going to give him the rock. But hey, one man's trash, another man's treasure. So Oakland, they got themselves one hell of a receiver, man. Good, knows how to run routes. I think he was a better route runner than Crabtree, and most likely probably going to be more effective in this offense, because I'm already expecting Amari Cooper to continue being trash. So
fair enough. Tell us how you really feel. Jeez. Jason, your thoughts?
Right. Listen, I'm going to need you not to sugarcoat anything for me, CJ, okay?
Well, no, I will not. I promise you.
I appreciate that. So, I understand the weirdness of this, because like you said, they got rid of Crabtree, and then they brought in Nelson, and basically same kind of receiver. But you know what? I think Nelson's a higher ceiling receiver than Crabtree. Crabtree's great. I love Crabtree. He's Mr. Reliable. But Jordy Nelson's a number one. He's a guy that can go out and be the number one guy. And, yeah, they want to build their offense around Amari Cooper, which is absolutely ridiculous given what has gone on with Amari Cooper. This is someone that can actually have an offense built around him. So I think I understand why they did what they did. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you look at it just pure numbers-wise. But Jordy Nelson has the ability to be that good.
See, I think it's a lateral move for Oakland. I think that if Jordy gives them what he's got at his best, it's going to be about what they were getting out of Michael Crabtree. Because, look, Jordy Nelson, he's going to be 33 at the beginning of the season. He's up there. He didn't have a great year last year. He's all of his best years. Yes, and believe me, I've been the one that's always been banging the table. When him and Aaron Rodgers play together, he's never not been an elite top half of the number one receivers when they've both been healthy throughout the whole season. But now he's very old. He's in a new system. And one key stat that I've seen floating around, a lot of big analysts have been pointing this out, and I have to agree. Last year, Jordy Nelson, even with Aaron Rodgers, had 0 receptions when he was in tight coverage, which was less than 1 yard. And then Derek Carr was one of the worst passers throwing into tight coverage. So I don't know how these guys are going to necessarily connect and build a rapport if the coverage is good, especially when he's going to a division which has some pretty good defenses in it. So, I love Jordy Nelson, but I am probably not looking to take him until the middle rounds at the earliest, because John Gruden, he is really kind of doing his best here to build around Amari Cooper, as he said. And I forget who said it. I saw someone else say this as well. They said John Gruden's doing his best to be the next Jeff Fisher. He's building a lot of named players. He's bringing them in, building a team, and a lot of them aren't necessarily great fits. So at least from the outside looking in, I'm sure he has a plan. It probably will work out. We've seen the upside of the Oakland offense at times, but yeah, I don't see Jordy in Oakland as being one of those elite top receivers, not at this point in his career. So I mean, where would you guys take him? I don't think he detracts from the rest of the offense any more than Michael Crabtree did, but for Jordy, it's a downgrade. So where are we taking him?
Man, it's hard to say. It's hard to say because you don't know how serious they are about making Amari Cooper the focal point of the offense.
I don't think they're gonna. Can't force feed the man. I mean, if the man's not gonna be productive. Okay, let's just say that's what they say. We already know John Gruden is a habitual liar. I mean, listen. So he can say that he wants to make Jordy be the focal point. He goes out there. Not Jordy. I'm sorry. Cooper wouldn't be the focal point. Cooper goes out there, sucks it up like we all expect him to do. And then we're gonna start getting some Jordy, and then Jordy's gonna be that guy. So, I mean, I gotta put him late fourth, early fifth. I mean, I think that's reasonable, especially right now with all this talk being going around.
Jason?
I like that. I mean, it could be that good, you know. However, I do have to take into account the fact that when there was no Aaron Rodgers, there was no Jordy Nelson. And that's scary. Yes, this is a far better quarterback than what Jordy had to deal with last year. In Derek Carr, and Derek Carr I think is going to have a bounce back season. So given all that, I think I take it just a shade after CJ and take him probably in the 6th round.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, you can make the points all day. He's going to a more rounded offense because, I mean, Green Bay, they've not been a great running team the last couple of years, though they have options there that we like. The offensive line's much better in Oakland, as we know. There's other weapons in the passing game there like there were in Green Bay, so that's kind of lateral. It all comes down to rapport and learning a new offense, and we've never seen Jordy have to do that and ever succeed with anyone that wasn't Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah, I think 5th round's the absolute earliest I'd be taking him, and it pains me to say that as an avid Jordy Nelson supporter. So let me see where he's going right now. He's currently going at he's going in the middle of the 3rd round. So,
whoa.
Yeah, everybody's buying into the ceiling, maybe buying into the name, but in the mid-3rd round, you guys can have him, as much as that hurts to say. So, yeah, Jordy Nelson, his impact is, to us, confusing. Let's move on to the guy who he replaced, and that is Michael Crabtree, who, of course, went from Oakland to the Baltimore Ravens. So, I guess I'll take it away since I am the Ravens fan here. I have to assume that Michael Crabtree's floor is at least what he did last year, about 60 receptions, 600 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Look, we've seen this in the past. Baltimore's offense is not elite. Joe Flacco is not elite. But when they get a good running game going, which they have good pieces, and there is a very nice, good outside possession type receiver guy who can kind of do it all, that guy gets peppered with targets. Joe Flacco likes to lock into one guy and just shower them with targets. So I have to assume Michael Crabtree's target count goes up, which last year he had 101 targets. I have to assume he at least gets back to that, honestly. He had, not a great receptions. He missed a couple games, but I just have to assume with no real answer at tight end right now. There's Max Williams, which the team is high on, but he has not really delivered on his early draft a couple of years ago. And there's really nothing else at wide receiver. They brought in John Brown, which is super exciting, but he's got the sickle cell trait. He's often injured. He's a good field stretcher guy, which could really help Michael Crabtree run the whole route tree from there. But I have to assume because of that, he's going to get targets as long as he stays healthy. I'm just worried about Jordy. Wow. We're talking about Jordy again. John Brown's ability to stay healthy on the field and then distract from Michael Crabtree. So I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
I don't trust Joe Flacco, and that's the bottom line here. It's that I don't trust Flacco to get the ball to him. But it is Michael Crabtree. He does fill a need that you guys have needed since you lost Anquan Bolden. So
Steve Smith filled that role pretty nice for a couple of years.
Yeah, he did. It's an okay move. It's definitely something you guys needed. You needed some pass-catching ability on this team. Just didn't have that. And maybe, you're right, maybe this is the guy that Joe Flacco needs to be able to get the ball to. So I think it's a decent move. I think for you guys, it's a great move.
Well, yeah. It comes down to volume and opportunity. I mean, with the Ravens, let's go back. The players that have played this position in the offense, Derek Mason, for instance, he averaged around 1,000 yards. Let me see. He averaged, about somewhere in the ballpark of 80 receptions, somewhere around 6 touchdowns. So yeah, not too bad. And Quan Bolden, same amount of receptions on average, same amount of yards on average, same amount of touchdowns on average. All right, let's go to Steve Smith. Slightly lower on receptions, slightly lower on yards, and slightly lower on touchdowns. But to be fair, he was 38 playing football, or 37 playing football with us at the time. So Michael Crabtree, who's 30, who's still, I think, very much at the high point of his career, I see no reason why I can't get back to Anquan Bolden, Derek Mason numbers, which were good wide receiver 2s for fantasy with wide receiver 1 upside week to week. So just on volume alone and if he scores. So, yeah, I don't think he's going to be someone that you should take super early. I don't think he's someone that you're going to be super excited that you drafted. But he's a guy that I think gives you a nice volume to build as your wide receiver 2 flex option type guy. So I'll ask you this. I don't think we talked about his draft stock. Where are you taking Michael Crabtree?
Man.
This will be a lot easier once we do our rankings, which is coming soon.
Yeah. That's going to be coming soon. I thought we glanced on this a little bit on other Tuesday show, but I will say I'm probably going to take him just because of the situation. It's got to be like late 5th for me. Late 5th.
Jason?
Given the offense and how vanilla and bad that they've been over the past couple of years, I have to agree. I'd probably go 5th, 6th round.
Yeah, I'd be very comfortable taking him in the 5th round. I mean, if he's there, I'll happily take him. 4th, it could be a little rich there. I think he has the ability to deliver on a 4th round pick, but obviously that's still, to me, considered rounds 1 through 5 are early rounds, so I'm trying to do risk mitigation. So if I can get him around later than that in the 5th round, I'd be pretty happy with that. And he's currently going as the 8th pick in the 5th round. So yeah, right about middle to late 5th. So yeah, that lines up with basically what we're saying. So yeah, kudos to us. John Brown, like we said, another field stretching guy in Baltimore. I think he's a late round flyer because you never know what you're going to get out of him week to week. Would we all agree with that?
Yeah, I agree.
Jason? Low floor, high ceiling, low floor.
Yes, I would agree. Incredibly low floor, high ceiling. He's one of those streaming guys which you may never be able to know what you're going to get out of him. Joe Flacco likes to throw it deep, but he doesn't throw it deep often or well. There he is. Wow, he's actually going in the 15th round, so super late round flyer, which honestly, I have to agree. So yeah, let's move on. Terrell Pryor, who we just talked about, signing from Washington to the New York Jets. Where are we taking him? I know we won't go into much detail because we already covered this in the news. So where would you take Terrell Pryor?
7th, 8th round.
9th, 10th for me.
7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Yeah, man, Terrell Pryor. He's probably one of those guys that I'm going to want to get really late, probably around the time you're saying, because I have to assume, like we said, Robbie Anderson's going to be suspended for the first however many weeks of the year. So I'm probably hoping that I can get him, have a couple really good weeks with him, and then trade him high before Robbie Anderson comes back, especially to players who aren't really paying attention. So yeah, if I have to pull the trigger on probably 9th round or so, I'd probably be able to wrap my hand. I'd be happier in double digits. If I could get him in the 10th round, I would definitely grab him there. If I felt like he might go and I really need wide receiver depth, I might grab him in the 9th because I know the upside's there. He's a low floor, high ceiling play. And he's currently going 10th pick in the 10th round, so a little bit later than I'm willing to take him. So, yeah, I guess that's still pretty close to what we're saying. All right, next guy, Torrey Smith. Going from Philly to Carolina, where he went from being the number 3 option, really, out of the wide receivers in Philly, to the number 2 in Carolina. We've gone pretty much in depth on Torrey Smith in the show, and we've covered the Carolina Panthers a lot in the past, so let's just gloss over this very quickly. What are your thoughts on this? I'll start with Jason, actually.
Start with me?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I know how strong you feel about Carolina.
Yeah. I like Torrey Smith. I don't like Carolina or the situation, but as we said, he's gone to a situation where he's going to be able to make an impact. He's going to be able to get the ball more often, probably less mouths to feed in this particular offense. So I like the production ability of Torrey Smith in Carolina, despite the fact that this is not a very good offense.
Fair enough. Well, CJ, what are your thoughts as the most recent team that held the rights to Torrey Smith?
I mean, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Carolina Panthers, for taking that trade.
How did they fall for this?
I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what's going on.
They're just really happy with Philadelphia right now.
I thank you so much for this. But as far as the impact on this team, listen, we got young receivers in this offense that are coming back. They got off an injury, so you add Torrey Smith to the mix of that. I guess on the other side of Devin Funchess. I mean, listen. I'm not the right guy for this. We should call Obama. Maybe he can be able to dress this up some more. He has a way with words. He can talk you into drafting him.
I don't know.
And this will be good. This will be good for you and Torrey Smith, because I don't know a good scenario where you can draft him, or if he's even draftable. I don't think he is. I think he's a waiver wire guy. But somebody can get talked into drafting him. It could be.
Yeah, no, I actually completely agree. Look, I saw Torrey in Baltimore for many, many years. You had him for 1 year. He's one of those guys that he plays a very specific role, and he plays it well. He's a speedy wide receiver who doesn't have the most reliable hands. They're going to use him to stretch the field, open up stuff underneath for Devin Funchess and Greg Olsen. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey in the running game. They're going to basically use him probably to open up most of their offense. And then whenever teams kind of stop falling back on him, they start sucking up to cover everything else, they're going to take a shot at him. And sometimes that'll connect, sometimes it won't. So Torrey Smith, as he's been, I feel, throughout his entire career, is going to be one of those incredibly boom-bust guys, and you'll never really going to know what week that's going to happen unless he's going up against a lower-tier defense. So, yeah, I have to agree. He's a guy that I'm not looking to draft. I think he's a waiver wire guy. We all agree on that, I think?
Yep, I agree.
Jason?
I'd take a shot at him in the 14th or 15th round.
Just pick him up as a flyer, a guy you might actually drop for a transition later on, but just better to have him.
Yeah, like my 4th or 5th receiver. I'd be fine with that.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
All right. Well, fair enough. All right, and last wide receiver we'll talk about, Dante Moncrief went from the Colts to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, when we were originally going to talk about him on Tuesday, it looked a little bit interesting, and now it's getting a little bit more interesting because they released Allen Hurns, which they both kind of play that same role as that guy who kind of stretches the field and tries to do stuff on the outside. So what are your thoughts on Dante Moncrief in Jacksonville? Obviously, a massive downgrade on the player himself, going from Indianapolis with Andrew Luck to Jacksonville with Blake Bortles. CJ, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, new face, new place. Second, they still got Marquise Lee there. They still have King Cole there. So there's still pieces there that this team likes and that already familiar with. So it's going to be on, this is a prime example of a situation where I say, well, you got to pay attention to the preseason and see how the chemistry between him and Bortles is going to be. And that will give you a good, a good picture of where he can be drafted, or if he's a sneaky guy for you that you want to low key get, or see how late you can be able to hold off on him and then pick him up. To me, I think he's probably gonna be like a 10th round pick for me. 10th round, I'll draft him up, but I don't see a scenario where his stock can rise up like that.
That's fair. Jason, what do you think, real fast?
It's really interesting that they seem to be doing the same kind of thing that the Bears did last year, as far as they're getting all the same kind of guy to play receiver rather. And they don't have a true number one anymore because they got rid of Allen Robinson. So it's really strange to me, this move. It seems like they're just kind of stocking the fridge with the same stuff. So I would agree. I wouldn't pick him up until late rounds.
Yeah, this is kind of frustrating, honestly, because you don't really know what to think, because this is a team that has openly said, we heard about it, and then we saw it in front of us play out, a team that wants to run the ball and take the ball out of Blake Bortles' hands. Yet, and then they kind of seemingly reassure that by letting their true number one wide receiver, Allen Robinson, go. Then they spend about equal money on what they would have spent on him, re-signing Marquise Lee, making a couple other moves, bringing in Dante Moncrief. So it's a downgrade for me on the offense. It's a downgrade for Dante Moncrief with the quarterback. This team brought in Austin Seferian-Jenkins, which, as we all know, is another pass-catching target at tight end, and Niles Paul, which is more of a blocker. They also brought in, what's his name? Andrew Norwell from Carolina, a very good offensive guard, but he's really well known for run blocking, which kind of plays away from the passing. This is a really confusing and frustrating situation trying to analyze because besides Marquise Lee, like CJ said, they have Keenan Cole, which he really flashed towards the end of the season last year. They have D.D. Westbrook, both guys that they seem to be very high on. A number of other receivers in the mix as well. So this is just a really confusing situation, and it's one, honestly, I'm staying away from. I've often said in the past, I am not a fan of Dante Moncrief. I mean, over the last 2 years, he struggled to make the 30 receptions. So, he's only had 1 year where he got above 32 receptions in his career. So I'm not a big fan of the guy based on his workload and his work in the past. I'm not drafting him. That's kind of where I'm leaning. So, CJ, you said you probably wouldn't draft him, or would you?
I said about 10th round for me.
10th round? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, flyer, 14th, 15th round.
Yeah. Well, he's going in the 11th round, so closest to CJ, I guess. But you can have him, honestly. You could be right on him. You absolutely could, but based on volume and opportunity and the player, I'm good, honestly. All right, let's move on. All right, we got 3 more names to get through as we move into the tight end position. 3 notable tight ends have signed, and we have to start with the one and only Jimmy Graham. Kind of shocking the world. Everyone kind of was thinking, oh, Saints, Patriots, last second. Packers came into the mix. Then he signs there. Now a Green Bay Packer. That's why they let Jordy Nelson go. Guys, what are your thoughts on Jimmy Graham in Green Bay, his fantasy outlook, and his impact on the team?
It's just going to depend on if they use him. I mean, look at Seattle. They could have had something great with him, and they didn't. They just didn't throw the ball his way. And honestly, he's not going to a team that features the tight end, and that's scary for his production. But at the same time, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers, who is going to find whoever's open. That's just what he does. He spreads the ball out around the field, and he finds who's open, and this is going to be a massive red zone weapon for him. So I'm still thinking of Jimmy Graham as being one of the elite tight end options in fantasy.
But listen, man, I like this. I like this for Aaron Rodgers, man. Give him a tight end, that can work, that he can be able to get back to the days with him and Drew Brees connecting, man. I know the track record with tight ends in this organization is not that luxurious, but I do like this situation going on right now between him, Jimmy Graham, and the Packers, man. And I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys will be able to do. And as far as round goes, I would say probably about he's probably gonna be gone by then, but I would say I would take him in the 8th round.
Yeah, look, Jordy Nelson leaving obviously leaves a void in that offense. They've got players behind him that they like that they're bringing in. Jeff Janis and Geronimo Allison, they jump right in. Those are guys that we know. Obviously, more immediately, there's Devontae Adams and Randall Cobb, but Jordy Nelson was a big play in the red zone, 6'3" receiver. They bring in a 6'7" tight end in Jimmy Graham. Now, Jimmy Graham, also up there in age, he's not the fastest guy. He's good at boxing players out. He's got really good hands, a really good wingspan. So I think he's going to get a good amount of catches. I think that they didn't spend all this money to bring him in not to use him and then cut one of their leading receivers in franchise history. So I assume Jimmy Graham's going to find a role in this offense. I think he will be used a lot on the inside. I think he will be used a lot in the red zone. Jimmy Graham, over his career, has averaged double-digit touchdowns basically whenever he's played anywhere except for Seattle those first 2 years. So all but 1 year, once he really got going in with the Saints, was at least double digits. He got into the 16 1 year. Of course, we all remember that year. He even got to double digits last year with the Saints. Jordy Nelson, on average, on years where he was able to stay healthy the full year, and so was Aaron Rodgers, was averaging, 15, 13, 14 touchdowns on various years. So I have to assume Jimmy Graham is in line to get at least double-digit of touchdowns like he did last year. I feel pretty comfortable saying he'll probably get at least 60 receptions and probably at least what he did last year, 500-plus yards. So I have to assume with the climate and what the tight ends are averaging at the tight end position in fantasy, he's got to be, even with a low volume of catches and yardage compared to what I guess is possible, you have to assume that with all this upside, he's probably still going to be a tight end 1, and therefore a guy that you're probably going to have to target and draft in your leagues. So refresh my memory again. Where'd you guys say you would take him?
I said about 8th round. I think he'll be gone by then, but I say 8th.
8th round?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd start looking for him around the 6th or 7th round.
Yeah. See, it's a tough question for me to answer, as you guys know, because I wait super, super, super late on tight ends. I stream the position more times than not than I do quarterbacks. Though I did say that in an auction league, I'd penny up more for him, but we're not talking auction value. We're talking draft. I feel like this is a guy, if I was to do a typical draft style, would probably be a 7th round pick, if I had to guess. Let me see where he's going right now. He's going as where are you, Jimmy? There he is. 5th pick in the 7th round, so about a middle of the 7th round type pick. Yeah, well, that fits with what I said. I feel comfortable with that. So, yeah. All right, so Jimmy Graham, upside for sure. Don't be afraid. Trey Burton, next guy on the list, went from Philly to Chicago. Who better to talk about than CJ? CJ, take it away.
Ooh, this is a sleeper, man. This is going to be a sleeper, and he's going to be dangerous in this offense, man. I know people are going to be like, Trey Burton, rookie, new place, new face. They're going to sleep on him. They're going to let him slide, and I am all about that because this dude is money. You go put back on the tape. You look at every day, every game that that Zach Ertz wasn't playing, he was playing, and he was effective, and he kept getting touchdowns, kept getting receptions. I love him going to the Bears and let him be the number 1 guy. I know Adam Shaheen is there, but I think he's going to be more effective tight end in that offense. Love me some Burton, man.
Yep, Trey Burton and Deion Sims are actually penciled in as the starters right now, ahead of Adam Shaheen. That's interesting. Jason, what are your thoughts?
I really like Burton. My only issue is that now it's actually a lot of mouths to feed in this offense suddenly. So that's a little concerning. New face, new place. He needs to build a rapport, all those kinds of things. So I really like him, but I think I'm going to steer clear of him for this year, just because, again, we don't know how this offense is going to run. At least not at first.
Yeah, Trey Burton, look, if you've paid attention to fantasy or just watched the Eagles play last year, once Zach Ertz went down, he got the opportunity. He was effective, especially if you saw him in the playoffs and the Super Bowl specifically, throwing that touchdown pass. That was awesome, the trick plays that you can do with him. But, yeah, it's one of those things where I love the signing with Chicago until they started bringing all these other players. I think he's definitely a low-floor, incredibly high-ceiling talent. I think he's got everything it takes to be one of those top fantasy tight ends. So it's just going to be a risk-reward type thing. But the good thing is you're not going to have to spend, an elite, tender on the guy when you draft him in your fantasy drafts, because most people don't even know who the heck he is, much less where they should be drafting him. So I would imagine this is a guy you can get probably incredibly late in your drafts, double-digit rounds, provided that a lot of other shows like ours aren't talking him up too much and he starts climbing. So, yeah, late double-digit rounds. If I can get this guy then, that's awesome. I'd be okay spending a little bit higher. He's currently going back of the 13th round, so that sounds about right. He's going ahead of the likes of Martellus Bennett, George Kittle, David Njoku, Charles Clay. I'm okay with all that. But going just behind the next guy we're going to talk about, Eric Ebron. We already talked about him a little bit. I forgot to put him on the rundown. So it's kind of hard to get excited about the guy. We already talked about this pretty in-depth because, he was in the news. He just signed. So he's going as the 10th pick in the 13th round. Let's just throw it out there this way. Yay, nay.
It's the 13th round?
13th round, end of the 13th.
Yeah.
You would invest that in him? All right. Jason?
Sure.
Yeah, I would absolutely take that shot in the dark.
That's how we feel about Eric Ebron. No excitement.
No excitement. I'm super excited with Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck loves his tight ends in the red zone. Hey, he's got a long track record. All right, last guy we're going to talk about today, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, went from the Jets to the Jags. I don't know what we can possibly say about the Jags that we haven't said already. They brought in a number of players, a lot of pass catchers for a team that doesn't seem to want to pass the ball. Blake Bortles is very hot and cold quarterback. They have a great run-blocking line, a great defense, so they're going to be in scoring position often. Austin Seferian-Jenkins is a big body in the red zone, maybe even their tallest pass-catching option. I'd have to check. So I think that this is a low-floor, high-ceiling play. But I feel like he's just one of those names that people don't think about. He's one of those guys that usually goes undrafted. So I would imagine he's a waiver wire guy with definite, probably, I would say high tight end 2 upside, maybe even week to week low tight end 1, depending on the game. But I would imagine that he's got a very low floor to complement that. What do you guys think?
I agree.
Waiver wire.
Waiver wire. We all agree. Waiver wire.
Yeah, waiver wire, man.
Yeah. I love him as a waiver wire option because I think you can stream him. And he is currently going, undrafted. He's a waiver wire guy. So, there you go. So, that'll do it for us today. So, man, that's a lot of players, and those are just the ones that signed to this point. Of course, there's going to be more signing. But make sure you guys tune in on Tuesday when we will be talking winners and losers of free agency. You probably have some thoughts about this, and if you followed this in Tuesday's show, you probably have a pretty good idea. But there's so much more to talk about, and we're going to look into it as a whole from the team's perspective and see really who missed out and how they can improve moving forward. Of course, like we said, free agency's not over. The draft is around the corner. There's a lot more of the offseason to come, so make sure you guys check that out on Tuesday. Remember, support the show on Patreon if you enjoy what you're hearing. You want to help us keep doing what we're doing. You can submit your questions on Twitter at the FF Fanatics, or individually you can follow us. We're all active on Twitter. The show at the FF Fanatics. As I said, I'm at GPalmerFFF. CJ's at CJ Hickman89, and Jason is at Jason Cabrera13. So with that, we are out of here. Guys, do you have any parting thoughts for me?
Hey, man, you guys have a good weekend.
Jason?
Yeah, enjoy. We're getting closer and closer to draft time. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Jason, would you say you love the draft or free agency more?
The draft, by far.
That's what I figured. All right, so we're out of here. Everyone take care. Have a great weekend. We will see you on Tuesday. Bye.